riding a white horse today?
I could put you on one. What would you prefer?
I don't know if I'm worthy to ride on a white horse.
Yeah.
Oh. Hey, that article that you sent, shedding innocent blood, that had to be extremely tough for you to write.
It was horrible. The research that I had to do on this was, it was just traumatic, and I think it's one of the toughest ones I've ever had to deal with because of the research and what actually happens when they're doing what they do. And I think we ought to, if you want to, we can call this one, this Latin word abortion. Abortion is a big, deal in a lot of people's minds, and the ones that like it are doing it because out of selfishness mostly,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing that gets me is the fact that you see all these animal rights activists, advocates out there, and these tree huggers and Save the Planet and all this other nonsense. They're putting all this time and energy in these things, and not one word is mentioned about human life, and that should be a main topic.
Yeah.
The atrocities are going on with humans.
I'm glad you noticed that. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's pretty bad. The way you look, the way everything is here.
Well, if you really look at the history of it, it's been going on since the beginning of time. But the Romans used to put women inside steam baths, and they'd abort their children because of the overheated steam bath.
Well, that's kind of like what Constantine did with his wife, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. We went over that in one of the last videos.
Yeah. I thought that sounded really familiar. It's Saint Constantine to some people. Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah, the Saint Constantine killed his own family.
Yeah. That's kind of strange.
It's backwards.
Well, I could read this. It's definitely hard to read, but I can read it.
It is.
And we can go through it here, and we can do this.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, the title of this track is "Shedding Innocent Blood." Little baby boy miscarried at 14 weeks old. 4-inch long little boy who weighed just 26 grams with fully formed face, hands, feet, and even fingernails. His mother said, "I just couldn't believe how perfect everything was on him. His ears, his tongue, his gums, his lips. I couldn't believe it." The baby's heart stopped beating while in his mother's womb. So, how they kill healthy children in the womb. They have a process called suction aspiration. It goes from 1 to 3 months. It's also called vacuum curettage. I guess that's how they pronounce that. Is the abortion technique used in most trimester abortions. A powerful suction tube with a sharp cutting edge is inserted into the womb through the dilated cervix. The suction dismembers the body of the developing baby and tears the placenta from the wall of the uterus, sucking blood, amniotic fluid, placental tissue, and fetal parts into a collection bottle. The second is the dilation and curettage at 12 weeks. In this technique, the cervix is dilated or stretched to permit the insertion of a loop-shaped steel knife. The body of the baby is cut into pieces and removed, and the placenta is scraped off the uterine wall. Blood loss from the D&C, or mechanical curettage, is greater than for suction aspiration, as is the likelihood of uterine perforation and infection. Dilation. Used to onboard children as old as 24 weeks. Forceps with sharp metal jaws are used to grasp parts of a developing baby, which are then twisted and torn away. This continues until the child's entire body is removed from the womb. Because the baby's skull has often hardened to bone by this time, the skull must sometimes be compressed or crushed to facilitate the removal. And if it's not carefully removed, the sharp edges of the bones may cause cervical laceration. bleeding from this procedure may be profuse. And then we have salt poisoning. This is 4 months. This is akin to a hypertonic saline abortion. This technique is used after 16 weeks of pregnancy. When enough fluid has accumulated in the amniotic fluid sac surrounding the baby, a needle is inserted through the mother's abdomen, and 50 to 200 millimeters, as much as a cup of amniotic fluid, is withdrawn and replaced with a solution of concentrated salt. The baby breathes in, swallowing the salt, and is poisoned. The chemical solution also causes painful burning and deterioration of the baby's skin. Usually after about an hour, the child dies. The mother goes into labor about 33 to 35 hours after instillation and delivers a dead, burned, and shriveled baby. About 97% of mothers deliver their dead babies within 72 hours, and no anesthesia is used in any case. And then we have partial birth abortion, which is 6 to 9 months. This is also referred to as brain suction. Guided by an ultrasound, the abortionist grabs the baby's leg with forceps. The baby's leg is pulled out into the birth canal. The abortionist delivers the baby's entire body except for the head. The abortionist jams scissors into the baby's skull. The scissors are then opened to enlarge the hole. The scissors are removed and a suction catheter is inserted. The child's brains are sucked out, causing the skull to collapse. The dead baby is then completely removed. And that's enough to make any sane person puke. Speaking directly to Yirmiyahu, the prophet, Yahuwah said in Yirmiyahu 1:5, "Before I formed you in the belly, I knew you. And before you came out of the womb, I did set you apart. I appointed you a prophet to nations." And then we read in Proverbs 6:16 to 19, "These Yahuwah hates, and 7 are an abomination to him: a proud look, a lying tongue, and hands shedding innocent blood, a heart devising wicked schemes, feet quick to run to evil, a false witness breathing out lies, and one who causes strife among brothers." Hebrews 9:27, "And as it awaits men to die once, and after this, judgment. Vengeance is mine, I will repay." The baby's heart beats 5 weeks after conception. The baby's heart is well developed after 3 weeks, long before the mother knows she is pregnant. After 5 weeks, the heartbeat begins beating and pumping blood. Now, accidental injuries to children in the womb, we can read in Exodus 21:22 to 25. "And when men strive, they shall smite a pregnant Asha, and her children," notice they're being called children, "come out, yet there is no injury. He shall certainly be punished accordingly as the Asha's husband lays on him. But if there is injury, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, wound for wound, flash for flash." Now, context matters here. If we read Levikra or Leviticus 24:19 through 20, it has another context apart from the circumstance of smiting a pregnant woman. It goes as such: "And when a man inflicts a blemish upon his neighbor, as he has done so, it is done to him. Fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. As he inflicts a blemish upon him, so it is done to him. We are to respect all life and shield our neighbor from bodily injury. We love our neighbor as we love ourselves. To intentionally attack an unborn child in the womb is a heinous act and is the proverbial poster child of shedding innocent blood." At Matthew 5:38 to 39, Yahushua seems to give the opposite instruction than what we see at Exodus 21:22 to 25. Why the difference in these two situations? In the case of inflicting damage to the unborn, it's grievous and tried before a judge. In the case of Leviticus 24:19 to 20, the men are held to their own agreed settlement, since the damage is not mortal. We must be careful with each other's well-being and love others as we love ourselves. This tract is written to warn of the judgment that will come upon those who engage in the practice of killing the unborn. The human heart is crooked above all and desperately sick. This is a warning to turn from this wickedness. If it is heeded, it will help prevent the genocidal killing of unborn children around the world. I wanted to bring something up here, Lou, and on page 3 here, you have a picture at the top, and with the caption inside, "I love you, Mom. I will see you in the world to come." Have you ever thought possibly that could actually be a question, and it could be read as stated, "I love you, Mom. Will I see you in the world to come?" It kind of made me think right there, because, the murderers and the idolaters and those that practice all the wicked arts and everything won't be in the kingdom to come. So without repentance, that's not to say someone can't, repent from what they've done. We all hope they do. But those who don't, that's pretty serious. And I like what down here in the corner on the last page, you have a little picture down there. I'm not a smart man, but why would bacteria on Mars, the fourth planet, be considered proof of life when a heartbeat on Earth isn't? I just thought that was a good question. But yeah, this is a very hard tract to read. I mean, really, it's hard to read, and I can feel exactly what you were feeling when you put the pen to paper on this.
Yeah, it's hard. It's genocide, and there's no way around it. It's the most undiscussed thing that goes on. They're conscious as they're being ripped into pieces and shredded until their blood pressure drops and they lose consciousness then, but they're awake and they feel everything,
Exactly. And the one about the salt, the saline solution, I mean, everybody knows you get a paper cut and you get salt on it, how much it burns. Can you imagine how that would feel on a scale like that?
Yeah. And it goes on for about an hour.
Yeah.
They're fried slowly.
Yeah.
Even if you were burned at the stake, it wouldn't take that long.
No.
But this is a slow, chemical, poisonous, toxic burning. And people should stand up. Well, they have, and they've been imprisoned just for mentioning things like this and singing songs in a hallway. They've been imprisoned for that because an abortion clinic is. But these places are placed in places where they want to kill the racial profile population that's in that neighborhood, and they make this into genocide basically. And Margaret Sanger is a person that was repentant. She started this in the Planned Parenthood operation, but they exported it into all the world. So this thing is become rampant, and there's just no respect. There was one thing that Yahusha was telling us in Matthew 18. If I can read that really quickly, Matthew 18. Yahusha is talking about. He's answering a question. His Talmudim, his pupils, ask him, "Who then is the greatest in the reign of the Shamayim?" And Yahusha called a little child to him and set him in their midst and said, "Truly I say to you, unless you turn and become as little children, you shall by no means enter into the reign of Shamayim. Whoever then humbles himself as this little child is the greatest in the reign of the Shamayim. And whoever receives one little child like this in my name receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it is better for him that a millstone be hung around his neck and that he be drowned in the depth of the sea." Anyway, there's another little section here that I wanted to mention in Romans, and this is a prophecy that Paul was inspired to write about. And here's what it says in Romans chapter 1, beginning at verse 24. Therefore Yahuwah gave them up to uncleanness in the lust of their hearts, to disrespect their bodies among one another, who changed the truth of Yahuwah into the falsehood, and worshipped and served what is created rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. Because of this, Yahuwah gave them over to degrading passions, for even their women exchanged conventional relations for what is against convention. And likewise, the men also, having left the conventional relations with women, burned in their lust for one another, men with men, committing indecency, and receiving in return the penalty which was due for their straying. And even as they did not think it worthwhile to possess the knowledge of Yahuwah, Yahuwah gave them over to a reprobate mind, to do what is improper, having been filled with all wickedness, whoring, wickedness, greed, evil, filled with envy, murder, fighting, deceit, and evil habits, whisperers, slanderers, haters of Yahuwah, insolent, proud, boasters, devisers of evil, disobedient to parents, without discernment, covenant breakers, unloving, unforgiving, ruthless, who, though we know the righteousness of Yahuwah, that those who practice such deserve death, but only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway,
that's where we're at today.
Well, the word in Hebrew for a young boy or a young girl, whether they're in the womb or not, is yalad. I think it's related to the word lad and lady, but it usually refers to a young one, and they're little ones. And yalad is Hebrew word 3206. If you put H3206 in your browser, you'll see it's spelled Yod Lamed Daleth. And it means children or child. And also, the children of Israel are usually referred to, it refers to men and women. It's just a generic term. But Ben, B-E-N, is just two letters in Hebrew. It's Beth Nun. And it refers to a descendant, a child, and it's usually referring to all of them at whatever age they are. But, they want to differentiate between a zygote, which is the moment that the male sperm and the female egg unite, and that's the moment that the conception begins. And it begins a timeline. And this grows, and then in the Greek they use another word, embryo, but it's still a child, and the timeline is ongoing, and it does not break until the person actually dies. But the Hebrew word is yalad, and there's another Hebrew word that relates to yalad, and that would be talitha. Yahusha told the little girl who had died, she was dead, and they called him, and he stood there and he said, "Arise, Talitha, arise," or awaken. And this girl was dead, but that Hebrew word Talitha actually refers to a wounded lamb, and that's what the word meant in that day. But
interesting.
Yeah. But I thought that they certainly have abandoned their conventional function.
Oh, yeah. It's by far, and we see it all around us today with people, around the world, all these movements and all this gender nonsense going on. It's like, it's sickening. But, and we can't understand it. We try to understand their minds because, we don't have the spirit that's actually possessing those people. And but it's the same spirits that were on this earth before the flood doing the same thing. It's just the subjects are different. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. And as love grows cold, it's because of the lack of law. The teachings of Yahuwah. As the Torah is dismissed and thought of as not important or not pertinent, the more we depart from Yahuwah's word, because they're not studying it. The hate is just rising, and people are factions, and they blame you because of your stance on certain issues. But this is a really big one, and it's just not discussed openly very much.
No, it's not. Well, and the thing of it is there's people out there. There's still good people out there that, for some reason, they cannot have children. They can't conceive children, and they would love to have children. So why not, have the ability for those people to adopt without jumping through all the stupid hoops and spending all the ridiculous amounts of money? Someone that would give that unwanted child a good home, a good upbringing, give it some love.
Yeah, there are alternatives.
Sure.
And,
sure. It's just, I don't know. I don't understand, it isn't going to get any better. I know that, but
Yeah, there is.
It doesn't mean we can just ignore it and not say anything. If the topic comes up, you gotta talk about it. You gotta say something about it because it's wrong. If you don't say what's wrong, when you should, then that means you condone it.
Yeah, you're letting it go on, and you could save, who knows, a lot of lives that way. But the importance of sharing this video with mature people, I think, because the topic is pretty disgusting, but we can certainly, I think a lot of teenagers need to hear these things, and the torture of the unborn has got to stop. Yahuwah's, he knows what's going on. He formed us in our womb. He knew us even before creation began. He knew us because he's outside time. But the penalty is going to be pretty ferocious.
Yeah, it is, and I think there's probably going to have to be a bunch of companies that start producing millstones because they're going to need a lot of them.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks for reading that, Dan, and we'll catch everybody next time. And we really appreciate you all watching this and sharing the video.